Are you sick and tired of playing the same old meta champions game after game? Well, look no further, because today we're going to be breaking down 10 champions, 2 for each role, that are not normally played in that role, but are extremely powerful and slept on for Season 15. Learning any of these champions is going to give you a huge edge up on your opponents, because unfamiliarity is something that works heavily in your favor. If your opponent doesn't have a good idea as to the limits of the champ you're playing, then your ability to win out in skirmishes goes up drastically. So let's get you guys set up with a couple of hidden gems. But first, some hard truths. YouTube is built for the algorithm, not your LP. That means clickbait titles, junk food topics, and stretching simple tips for watch time. We're part of that system too, just like every guide and YouTube channel. And because every video is randomly surfaced to you as a singular guide and topic, advice often contradicts what you just watched. No context, no plan, more confusion. On our website at SkillCapped, however, we're free from all that, allowing us to focus on what actually works. We teach you the most efficient way to really rank you up fast, with the same premium editing and challenger level coaches you see here, just without the algorithm's hoops. Start with our essentials courses for every role, updated for Season 15. These are meticulously planned step-by-step guides that build your fundamentals in the right order. Once you've finished essentials, move into the advanced courses. Deep dive wave control, advanced mechanics, the proven bronze to diamond climb paths, and literal world record jungle clears for each jungler, all structured so lessons stack instead of contradict. While you follow these learning paths, we also release our popular challenger walkthroughs, new sessions every week showing how to abuse the best meta champs for your elo. Supported with an AMA section below each video, which we always respond to. We back it up with a climb 5 divisions improvement guarantee while you're actively using SkillCapped, plus a 30-day refund change of mind policy on top of that, so there's literally no risk. Stop trying to mix and match random guides and start following a structured path far away from all the noise. Click the limited time discount link below to join SkillCapped today. So for our first off-meta top lane pick, this champion is way more commonly played as a jungler. However, Rek'Sai is criminally underrated as a top lane pick for Season 15. So over the past while, Rek'Sai has received a few changes in specific that has made her a much better top laner. Most recently in 25.16, Rek'Sai had her base AD increased from 58 to 62, so that was a big win. In 25.15, and something that really helps out top lane Rek'Sai, was the fact that her E cooldown dropped from 10 seconds all the way down to 6. The reason this is so crazy is because Rek'Sai's Q is only on a 4-second cooldown, while her E now sits at 6, and those are drastically shorter cooldowns than what the majority of top lane champs have. So this just allows for Rek'Sai to threaten way more consistently in lane, and if you're playing into someone like Aatrox and he uses his Q, Aatrox Q is on a 14-second cooldown in the early game, so you then have this massive window where if Aatrox walks up for farm, you can just beat him up in a trade. In the past, when we saw Rek'Sai top pulled out in pro play, it was built as a tank, but right now the best way to build her is Bruiser. Titanic Hydra Rush is really powerful for Rek'Sai because in combination with her Q, it allows her to push waves out incredibly fast. You then go Spear of Shojin second to amplify your skirmish power, while Overlord's Bloodmail slots in third. You definitely want to be taking Grasp for your Keystone rune, because with the low cooldowns on your spells, you want to be scrapping a ton in lane, and in turn, you'll be getting great value out of Grasp. For our second off-meta top lane champ that we would highly recommend you pick up right now, we've got Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia is just absolutely broken as a top laner due to the recent buff she received. Back in 25.19, Riot gave Cassiopeia an additional 50 base mana along with more damage on her E. This is insane for top lane Cass, because when it comes down to early all-in plays, the only thing that really gates you is whether or not you have enough mana to kill your target. If you hit your Q, then there's really no champ who can beat you in a stat check at level 2, and we can see this in action in one of Strumpus' recent full game commentaries that is up on our website.
Once you're level 2, that's when your game really begins, because if you get one Q, you win every all-in. No champion beats you in a stat check. Okay, so Mordekaiser, this guy thinks he's slick, he just started autoing me. But no, that's the perfect example. He thinks he can beat me with his passive, but no. My champion just does way too much damage.
So yeah, your early game kill potential with Cassiopeia is godlike, and this allows you to take matters into your own hands and really snowball lanes out of control. If we look at a few matchup stat lines for Cassiopeia top lane right now, she's winning over 54% of the time to Jax, Aatrox, Mordekaiser, Darius, and Ambessa, who are some of the more annoying and more commonly played fighters in top lane. The standard 3-item core for Cass is going to consist of a Rod of Ages Rush into Archangel second and Rylai's third, while Conqueror will be your Keystone rune. This champ used to be played in the jungle but hasn't been in meta for quite some time, as we've got Olaf as our first selection for the role. So Olaf is without question the most underrated jungler in the game for Season 15, as he's been up above a 50% win rate for multiple patches in a row, but nobody has noticed him. If it was just for one patch where his win rate was up above 50%, then we couldn't take much away from that due to the low sample size, but it's literally been that way for the past 5 patches, with a cumulative game count of over 130,000. Something that's making Olaf jungle really strong right now is the fact that he can rush Hexplate and turn into a skirmishing machine on one item. Hexplate was buffed a few patches ago, receiving more attack speed and movement speed when you pop your R, so it's a great pickup on Olaf. Hexplate into Sundered Sky is the core build for Olaf jungle, and you have so much extended fight strength with that core. By running Ghost as your summoner spell along with having Hexplate, there's just no way an enemy is escaping you, and you'll stat check them to death on your one item spike. The rune page that you should be taking consists of Conqueror for the Keystone, and then make sure to grab Inspiration for secondaries with free boots and approach velocity. An off-meta jungler that we saw Inspired pull out in pro play who can also work really well for solo queue is Tryndamere. It's similar in theme to the likes of Nocturne and Shyvana, where your main focus is to farm up efficiently to your level 6 to where you can then begin dominating the game. Clear speed of Tryndamere jungle is pretty solid, and just make sure you're taking 2 points in your E at level 3 instead of a point in W so that you can clear as fast as possible. So it's E at level 1, Q at level 2, and then E again at level 3. There are a lot of different builds going around on Tryndamere jungle, but the one working the best in solo queue is a lethality setup. It's a Profane Hydra rush into Voltaic Cyclosword second, and then you're running Hail of Blades for the Keystone rune. So by rushing Profane Hydra, you get more AoE splash damage to motor through your camps, and then Voltaic Cyclosword is amazing value on Tryndamere because he can stack the energized attack really fast due to the cooldown on it being lowered faster when you use dashes. One of the best mid lane champs that you can use to counter melee mids who's more commonly played as a top laner is Kennen. Kennen mid is absolutely ridiculous when played into champs like Yasuo, Akali, Katarina, and Yone. Reason being is because of how difficult it is for melee champs to actually stick onto Kennen. With his mobility from E and the ability to stun enemies, as long as you're playing around your E cooldown and not being overly aggressive when it's down, you should never be losing a trade. You can just poke away at melee champs when they are trying to last hit, and then if a melee champ does try to jump in, you just activate E to space away from them and proceed to return trades when you're at a safe distance. You take Electrocute for the Keystone rune, and it's really easy for Kennen to proc against those melee champs with a nice empowered auto W into auto combo. To be even more annoying to play against, you can take Bone Plating and runes so it's impossible for melee champs to trade into you. Longer ranged mages are going to be a bit more difficult to deal with when playing Kennen, so he is definitely best used as a counter pick instead of a blind pick. However, if you have him as a pocket pick that you can pull out in melee matchups, he's going to provide incredible value for you. For our second mid lane selection, it's another champ we see way more up in the top lane, but who's just as good, if not better, as a mid laner, being Sion. So Sion mid has been sitting under a 1% play rate for a while now, but he's always above a 51% win rate patch after patch. Sion mid is just a great neutralizer, as his W, Doran's shield, and second wind make it really difficult for enemies to poke him out, so he can just farm up, and then once he gets level 6, that's where he can begin taking over. By going towards either Sunfire or Hollow Radiance as your rush item, the ability for you to instantly shove out waves is insane, and then the constant threat of a Sion R means that enemies cannot be aggressive at all in top or bot lane, or else you'll just swoop in for some free kills. The build that's working the best for Sion mid consists of a Hollow Radiance or Sunfire rush into Titanic Hydra second and Overlord's Bloodmail third. So you are going defensive with that first item, but building more Bruiser from then on out, so you are a legitimate damage source. Even though a lot of top lane Sion players like their Heartsteel, it's super bait on Sion mid because you don't really want to be interacting with the enemy laner much. The whole idea behind Sion mid is to perma-push waves and be a constant threat to roam, so building Heartsteel is counterintuitive to that strategy. For the Keystone rune, you can take Grasp into melee matchups, while Comet is going to work best if up against a ranged mid laner. So down in the bot lane, there are so many different off-meta champs you can play to great success, but one of the best right now is Brand. Reason being is because Brand has just been buffed multiple times, as he saw a few AP ratio buffs in 25.19, and then a Q stun duration buff and R cooldown buff in 25.16. Especially with Nami in a top tier spot for support right now, if you really want some free elo and have someone you can duo up with, give the Brand Nami lane a try. Nami throws her E on Brand, and it then allows for Brand to proc the slow when he uses his E, which makes lining up his stun from Q so much easier. The duo literally had a 57% win rate over 3,000 games over the past patch, which is an absurd stat line. Even if you don't get paired up with Nami though, Brand bot lane with any other support who has some solid CC lockdown can work great. The only thing that gates Brand is actually being able to land his skill shots. So if you can pair him with someone like Nautilus, Thresh, Leona, Seraphine, or Rel, who can hold enemies in place for an extended duration, then your all-in threat is just so deadly. For your build on Brand, you should be rushing Blackfire Torch, going into Liandry's second, and then Rylai's third, while Comet slots in for the Keystone rune. So even though this next champ is more commonly played played as a support and mid laner, her best role by far is as a bot lane carry, and it's Lux. Lux bot is a pick that our challenger expert Hector really likes, and it's been so good for a very long time. The pick works really well in the carry role because the chain CC potential at level 6 is incredible when you have a traditional support with you. If you play Lux as a support, a lot of ADCs don't have a high impact CC spell that they can use to follow off your bind hitting or setup plays so that you can hit your bind easier. When played as a bot lane carry though, you've got the chance of being paired with champs like Morgana, Thresh, Nautilus, and Karma who can all follow up really well and also start fights for you so that you can easily land your bind. If someone like Nautilus lands a hook at level 6, then you're guaranteed to chunk the enemy for 80% of their health bar, if not pick up a kill. So you have so much kill threat with Lux in the carry role. Laning up against traditional ADCs is also super easy for Lux because she outranges the majority of them. Kai'Sa is one ADC in specific who Lux can absolutely dominate because Kai'Sa is such short range and she doesn't have a gap closer to dodge away from Lux's skill shots. It's a heavy haste-centric build that you'll be running with Malignance as the rush and Horizon Focus slotted in second. And then for the rune page, you should be taking Comet along with Domination for secondaries. An off-meta support that we've seen pulled out in pro play this season who can be really good as a counter pick in select spots is Rammus. So Rammus support is going to work amazing into melee supports who need to dive in to be effective. Reason being is that Rammus has the point-and-click taunt from his E, so his ability to peel off dive supports is completely foolproof. So champs like Nautilus, Pyke, Blitzcrank, and Alistar are who Rammus thrives against the most. This is definitely one of those picks that you will want to only pull out as a counter though. Rammus support played into a double ranged matchup is not going to fare very well as he just doesn't offer up any kind of reliable threat early on in lane when up against two ranged champs. The absolute optimal time to pull out the Rammus support would be when the enemy team locks a full AD enemy comp and is playing a melee support. This way the Thornmail Rush becomes super powerful, and then going into Deadman's Plate second item will work really well. Once you get out of the laning phase with Rammus, he can offer up some really nice pick power. The flank strength of Rammus is insane with all the movement speed he gets from Q, so if the enemies overextend a bit too much, you should be looking for angles to flank them from the river. And then for the rune page on Rammus support, it's going to be Aftershock for the Keystone, followed by the Sorcery Tree for secondaries. And then another melee support who's really undervalued if picked in the right spots is Galio. Our challenger support main Rhino loves his Galio support and has a ton of success with it in the higher elos, so if you want to try out the pick, then his Galio commentaries that are up on our website will set you up perfectly. The idea behind Galio support is pretty similar to Rammus in that he does a great job at countering engage. Galio W into E combo can completely shut down dive champs from accessing your carry, while his R is the cherry on top. With Galio's R, he also has superb follow-up potential if paired with other dive champs, so if your team locks in Camille, Nocturne, Diana, or Hecarim who want to be going full throttle and diving the back line, Galio can complement that really well. Looking at Galio's matchup stats in solo queue, he fares extremely well against Nautilus, Blitz, Alistar, Leona, and Pyke, which is what you'd expect. Enchanters like Lulu, Melio, and Karma, who can just sit back and poke from range, are who Galio doesn't want to play against, so that's why using him as a counter pick is your best bet. For Galio's build and rune page, you want to be taking Aftershock for the Keystone rune, while Redemption and Locket are very standard first and second item purchases. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So there you have it everyone, those are 10 super powerful off-meta champions that are hidden OP for Season 15. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.